Okay, so it took a while to get going, but once the Miami Dolphins got started in free agency, the news just hasn't stopped. Hey, everyone, welcome to episode 474 of the All Dolphins podcast, a special edition for Tuesday morning, March 11, 2025. Quick programming note immediately, 8 p.m. Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I will be doing a live podcast where you guys can chime in with your questions and your opinion, your takes on what the Dolphins have done so far in free agency. And again, as I mentioned, it started off slowly for the Dolphins with not a whole lot of activity going on throughout the day on Monday, and then all hell broke loose. So where to start? I mean, there's a whole lot to discuss. We'll try to do it as succinctly as possible with some quick takes on what has been going on. Where I'm taping this, it is currently 9:50 a.m. on Tuesday, so it's possible that some moves will break while I am doing this. Can't help that. But we'll discuss what has happened as of now. The latest move on Tuesday morning involved safeties, and that includes, as my little freezing action that unfroze. Thank you very much, Internet, for not freezing too long. The safety action on Tuesday morning involved the departure of Javon Holland and the arrival, three of them actually, the arrival of Ifeatu Melifonwu and the staying put of Elijah Campbell. Let's start with Javon Holland. This was a done deal, gang. Dolphins were not going to pay the amount of money it was going to take for them to be able to keep the services of Holland. He's signing with the New York Giants. The reports indicate it's 3 years with $15.1 million annually, could go as high as 15.6. Dolphins were not going to get in that neighborhood. I don't know that the Dolphins would go much higher than, let's say, 12. Dolphins could have put the transition tag on Holland at 15, a little over 15 million a year, which would have given them the right to match any offer or perhaps match the offer and try to trade him. The problem is that goes immediately onto the cap. Dolphins don't have a ton of cap space. They do have some after the contract restructures of Teron Armstead and Bradley Chubb, but it's not like they had an unlimited budget. And then if you make the commitment of putting the transition tag on Holland, and you can't find a taker that would be willing to give you draft pick along with giving Holland a new contract, then you're kind of stuck with that. And again, the Dolphins did not want to go that high. And I can't say I blame them. Javon Holland was a good, solid starter for the Dolphins for 4 years. Was he a great player? No, not really. Was he anywhere near as good as some metrics sites or national analysts would tell you? No. And again, this is coming from somebody who's watched every single solitary Dolphin game for the past long time. And again, good safety, not a great safety. I've also seen in places where they talk about how good he is in the box and close to the line of scrimmage. And again, I'm sorry, I just don't know what I've been missing, or I'm not looking at the right things because I don't see it. Javon Holland to me is a good center fielder type safety. Background as a nickel corner as well from his days at the University of Oregon. This is what he is. He's kind of almost like a converted cornerback playing safety. Need to be making plays on the ball. Not a ton of interceptions throughout his time with the Dolphins. So again, this is not to rag on Javon Holland, who is a good, solid starter, but not a difference maker, not a $15 million a year guy. And I think one thing that's very interesting is that he did not wind up getting the biggest contract among the safeties on the free agent market. The one who did was Trevon Moehrig, formerly of the Las Vegas Raiders. I was going to say Los Angeles Raiders, going back 2 cities because after that it was Oakland. Anyway, who signed with, memory fails me right now, Carolina Panthers, I want to say. So it was Moehrig who got the biggest contract. He got a tad over $17 million. Melifonwu, love that pick. That addition for the Dolphins. It's 1 year, $4 million. It's part of what I like about it. This is a guy who entered the NFL as a 3rd-round pick as a cornerback out of Syracuse, who's also got good ball skills. Very, very, very good for the Lions in the second half of the 2023 season. Battles injuries last year. Wound up going on IR twice with ankle and finger injuries. So, yes, there's an injury risk. This is a guy, is he going to come to the Dolphins and get hurt immediately? Yeah, it could happen. There's no guarantee he won't. You're paying $4 million for a year. You're paying $4 million for 1 year for him. If it turns out it doesn't work, Dolphins walk after 1 year. This is called a low risk, high potential move. I really like it. I think he's a really good player. Certainly will be an upgrade over one of the two starting safety spots because the other one's Jordan Poyer, who did not have a great year with the Dolphins in 2024, which kind of should have been foreseen because he didn't have a great year with the Buffalo Bills in 2023. This is a guy who's had a very good career, but who's clearly toward the end of his career. And what he brings you more than anything right now is intangibles. When he's on the field, especially as a full-time player, you're going to see some deficiencies and teams are going to attack him. So really like the pick of Melifonwu. Elijah Campbell, I don't want to say it was a no-brainer. The Dolphins would bring him back, but I did a story on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. And as always, I encourage you to check out the website where all the content is free with a final forecast on the Dolphins pending UFAs. And I had Campbell in the category of high likelihood of returning to the team. It's the fourth straight year he has signed a one-year contract with the Dolphins. First year as an exclusive rights free agent. Last year as a restricted free agent. This year as a UFA before he even hit the market. Dolphins brought him back. 1 year, $1.9 million. Let's not get ourselves. This is a guy who's mostly a special teams player, regardless of what you might hear about Anthony Weaver really liking him and all that. He is a core special teams player who could provide you with emergency help on defense. Didn't play a whole lot of snaps on defense last year. Still, his value to the team is as a special teams guy, and you need some of those guys. And it's not like he goes onto the field as a defensive back and it's a catastrophe. He's serviceable, even though, again, he is on the team for his special teams. Okay, the other Dolphin additions, these are from Monday night. Quick thoughts on each one of those. Obviously, we have to start with Zach Wilson signed. Let's be clear about this. Signed as a new number 2 quarterback. Dolphins are giving him, it's a 1-year contract. It's $6 million guaranteed at the top. Could get up to $10 million depending on incentives, which involve playing time, playoff wins, that type of thing. Dolphins would not pay that kind of money last year for any backup quarterback. They sure as hell are not paying that for a number 3 quarterback. So if you're thinking the Dolphins are bringing somebody else to compete with Zach Wilson and Zach could be a developmental number 3, no. He was brought in to be the number 2 behind Tua Tagovailoa. And this is a move that absolutely has some risk because all the reports you hear out of Denver, and I talked to some folks who cover the Broncos, and they had nothing but positive things to say about him and his development last year. Everybody said he looked like a totally different guy. Then when he was with the Jets, when he relied solely on his athletic ability and the big arm, the mobility, but really wasn't very good at processing in the pocket, decision-making, the poise in the pocket, which led to him taking a ton of sacks, including, if you recall, and this is the part that's a little dangerous, his last NFL regular season game, which was against the Dolphins, if you recall, that was December 2023, a game Dolphins played without Tyreek Hill. Dolphins won 30-0, and they pounded the crap out of this guy in the first half before he left the game with a concussion. If you remember, I think it might have been the first series, Zach Sealer just absolutely tattooed him on a sack, forced a fumble. Dolphins recovered. They never looked back. Wilson was running for his life the entire time he was in the game. Wound up sustaining a concussion. Didn't play the rest of the way, of course. Then the Dolphins. The Jets traded him to the Broncos last year to get something for him. It was wound up as being Wilson from the Jets to Denver for a swap between a 6 and a 7. Denver sending the Jets a 6, Jets sending a 7 the other way, which basically tell you they were trying to get something for him. Wilson wound up being the number 3 quarterback despite his strong summer performance behind rookie Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham, who the Broncos re-signed a couple of days ago to again serve as a number 2. I am told the reason the Broncos even bothered to keep Wilson on the roster the entire season, they were hoping to get somebody to bite or ask to trade for him at the trading deadline. And at that point, it's like, why not keep him in case of an emergency? But so here's the thing. We're looking at a guy who has physical traits. Again, he can move. He's got a very, very lively arm. And the hope, if this move pans out, is he has learned in the time under Sean Payton has produced a transformation that's going to give him what was needed for him to become a serviceable or even quality NFL quarterback. The downside and the risk is that's all great and dandy and all that. Still hasn't played in a regular season game since 2023. Didn't play at all last year. And the last time he was on the field, he looked like he was a quarterback who was over his skis, pardon the expression. Looked a bit overwhelmed. Dolphins cannot afford to have a quarterback in the game should something happen to Tua Tagovailoa in 2025. And given what we saw last year, maybe it's fair to say that's more likely than not that Zach Wilson's going to have to play a game or two. What's the level of confidence or certainty that he is going to be the new Zach Wilson and not the one that we've seen so far in the regular season? There were more proven, stable, safe options on the market. Marcus Mariota, somebody we had talked about, even if it was Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz, those types of quarterbacks. Once Jimmy Garoppolo re-signed with the Rams, he might have been a good option. Andy Dalton could have been a good option, but he re-signed with the Panthers. Both of those re-signing to be in clear backup capacities, they would have been safer options. There's also a lower ceiling, which is what the Dolphins have done here. Where this leads, could Zach Wilson be with the Dolphins more than 1 year? Absolutely. They're going to see how it goes. It's a bigger investment. I mentioned Melifonwu, where the Dolphins, it's a 1 year, $4 million investment gamble, however you want to classify it. With Zach Wilson, we're looking at least $6 million. It's not egregious in terms of the amount, but it is risky because, again, if Wilson's put in the position to try to win games for the Dolphins and the Dolphins are getting Jets Zach Wilson instead of Broncos Zach Wilson, who never played in a regular season game, then there's going to be a problem. Let's move on to as far as if you want to give a grade to it, I think I might give it a C. I don't know that I'm in love with the move, particularly because based on the contract structure, Tua is going to be your starting quarterback for the next 2 years. At this point, I'm not so sure the better move wouldn't have been to go with a guy where there's a little bit more of the known rather than the unknown. But we'll see how it plays out. Along the offensive line, the Dolphins signed 2 players agreed to terms. Nothing can become official until Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And keep in mind that the agreements that were reached on Monday, going to be reached Tuesday, even Wednesday before 4 p.m. are not binding, which means either side can decide, you know what, I'm not going to do it. That's very rare, but it's not impossible. So the two offensive linemen with whom the Dolphins came to terms are James Daniels, formerly the Pittsburgh Steelers, and of course, now I'm going to forget, Larry Borom from the Chicago Bears. Borom is going to replace Kendall Lamb as the swing backup tackle. That's what he is. He can play also at guard if need be. He has started actually everywhere on the offensive line during his time in the NFL, all 4 years with the Chicago Bears, out of Mizzou, 5th round pick, I believe it was. Every place on the offensive line except for center. As for James Daniels, basically very simple. If not for the Achilles injury he sustained last year that cost him all but the first 4 games of the regular season, you'd have been looking at a top-of-the-market guard. So, yes, there's a risk. Dolphins signed him to a 3-year contract worth $24 million, which is it's a little bit more than they gave Aaron Brewer last year, which was $321. Obviously, don't think the Dolphins didn't do their due diligence in assuring themselves as much as can be done that the Achilles injury no longer is an issue for Daniels, that it was a one-time deal. Again, there are no guarantees when it comes to that. If he holds up, this is a really, really good signing. He's a good scheme fit, and he's a very good player. Former second-round pick out of Iowa. And again, the folks in Pittsburgh cannot say enough about the guy. Is a really, really good player. He just had the injury last year with the Achilles. And the point I want to make here, though, is if you're going to eliminate every player who's had an injury during his career from consideration when it comes to free agents, you're not going to be left with a whole lot. And I'll give you an example. Will Fries, who last year, I think it may also have been an Achilles, also had a significant injury, signed a ridiculous contract. I think it was 5 years, $88 million with the Minnesota Vikings. So again, it's not just the Dolphins. You have to make those moves. You cannot go with just somebody who's never had injuries because you're concerned that, it could happen again. That's just not how it works. Dolphins did lose one of their 3 impending unrestricted free agent guards, that being Robert Jones, who signed with the Dallas Cowboys. Good guy, hat tip. Okay starter, probably best suited to be a backup. Was put in the starting role last year. Decent run blocker. Could use some work in pass protection. But again, best wishes to him in his new career venture with the Dallas Cowboys. Let's move on to the Bosa thing, the Joey Bosa thing. And I wrote about this on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. The latest report, there were two different reports. Number one was that the Dolphins and the San Francisco 49ers both made an offer in the neighborhood of $10 million a year for Joey Bosa, who was released by the Chargers over the weekend. And then the follow-up report, this is from Mike Silver from The Athletic, who's a highly regarded journalist, been at it a long time, that the reports about the 49ers making an offer may have not been totally on the money. So don't know where we're left again. I'm taping this at about 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And I have to be honest, I don't get it. I really don't get it. It makes zero sense. The Dolphins right now at the edge defender position have Jalen Phillips, have Chop Robinson, have Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb is coming off a season where he didn't play while he was coming back from his 2023 ACL injury, which is very severe. Jalen Phillips is coming off a torn ACL, which he got after returning from an Achilles injury of 2023. Chop Robinson's a former first-round pick. Joey Bosa has missed 22 games the past 3 seasons, hasn't reached more than 6.5 sacks in any of those times. He has flashes where you see the ability of the former 3rd overall pick, but there are also times when you just don't see him. He's another guy who, again, he hasn't had the catastrophic injury like Chubb had or like Phillips had, but he's gotten a series of, whether it's quad, groin, hamstring, that type of thing. I don't know that it makes sense to add a 4th former first-round pick as an edge rusher and a 3rd veteran who has had injury issues in recent years, particularly if you're going to have to pay big money for him. It flat out doesn't make sense. And I get it. You can never use enough pass rushers. We found that out last year when the Dolphins wound up had to re-sign Emmanuel Ogbah after they had released him, wound up getting Tyus Bowser off the streets. It still doesn't make any sense, particularly if they have to pay any kind of money. And the tie-in for Bosa, why he would be interested in the Dolphins, is his father played for the Dolphins, 1987 first-round pick out of Ohio State, had a career that was derailed by injuries, played only 3 years. The Bosas, Joe and his brother Nick, grew up in Fort Lauderdale, attended St. Thomas Aquinas National Powerhouse before they went to Ohio State. The 49ers make sense from that standpoint. Gets a chance to play with his brother Nick. Supposedly the mom is very, very big on the idea of seeing her 2 boys playing together. But at some point, it's like, okay, how much are you going to pay for a guy, again, who's been in the league for about 10 years now, 9 years, and is not the down in, down out disruptive force that he once was. Again, it doesn't make sense to me. Now, if it materializes, I don't know. And for all I know, it's going on. It's, they're agreeing to terms right now as we speak, as I'm taping this podcast. But it's one of those, to me, I would rank it below Zach Wilson, which has some risk. I like the James Daniels move. The Larry Borum pickup is okay for depth. I don't think it's majorly significant. I like Elijah Campbell being brought back. I love the Melifonwu addition. Joey Bosa would go below all of those. Trying to think. I guess we should mention very quickly Laramie Tunsil traded again. This time he's going from Houston to Washington for more draft picks. The Texans, however, didn't get 2 first-round picks like the Dolphins got from them in a trade where I know it's very easy to look at. Well, you look at the Texans, they gave up all of that to get Tunsil, and they've won a couple of playoff games. The Dolphins still haven't won a playoff game despite all the draft pick bounty they got. Let's just say Tunsil's been a very, very, very good left tackle in the NFL. So best of luck to him and his new team. Should mention the Dolphins re-signed unrestricted free agent defensive tackle Matt Dickerson. Was the first player that the first impending UFA on their team that they re-sign. He's a depth player, if we're going to be honest about it. And outside of that, I guess we should mention very quickly before I close it up here for this afternoon, or this morning, I should say. Patriots, a lot of big moves. My initial reaction is like, oh, that team's going to be a problem. I always thought that the Patriots were due for a jump because of the addition of Mike Vrabel as head coach, but they have redone that defense. Milton Williams at defensive tackle is a dude. He's a really good player. I really like Carlton Davis as a cornerback. He's a really good player. I'm not as familiar with Robert Spillane, the linebacker they signed from the Raiders, but everybody's raving about that move. Harold Landry's a good pass rusher. And I think with Drake May at quarterback, even though their wide receiver core is really, really weak, their offensive line still has holes. I think that defense could be a problem very quickly under Mike Vrabel. So keep an eye on that. The Jets signing Justin Fields. Don't know if he's going to be their starting quarterback or they brought him in to be in a competition. I do know that he gave the Dolphins a hell of a hard time when Miami was at Soldier Field in 2022 and the Dolphins wound up pulling out a 35-32 win that they were lucky to win. It's a good thing, like Tua and the offense were on that day, but defense had no answers for Justin Field. And if it wasn't for an uncalled DPI that should have been called against the Dolphins, who knows how that game might have wound up. Anyway, don't necessarily think that Justin Fields a great quarterback. He did give the Dolphins a very, very hard time, and now we wait to see where Aaron Rodgers winds up. So that's going to wrap it up for now. Again, as mentioned, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday night, March 11th. I'm going to be back. It's going to be a live show. Hope you guys join me with questions, comments, all that good stuff. So in the meantime, let's go back to the grind and see what other moves the Dolphins will pull off this afternoon that we can talk about on Tuesday night. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Please like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys later.